Gee, what's in that envelope you got there, Kouri Richins? The ongoing legal saga surrounding the murder trial of Kouri Richins had a pivotal ruling made by 3rd District Court Judge Judge Mrazik regarding the disclosure of certain evidence recently. The decision emerged following a hearing where arguments were presented regarding the release of materials believed to be pertinent to the case. Summit County Attorney's Office had sought access to an envelope held by Kouri Richins, who stands accused of murdering her husband, Eric. She's a mom of 3, Eric Richins. The envelope, labeled as attorney-client privilege, contains a 33-page manuscript and a 4-page letter referred to as letter number 2. Now, does everyone remember letter number 1? Because letter number 1 was that other manuscript, which seemed to have very clear instructions on how she wanted people to testify in her interest and go along with a certain story, but then she claimed it was a manuscript for a book. Clearly, it was not a manuscript for a book.
She is such a prolific writer.
She had that children's book, and so God knows the next step is, full-fledged novel. Did you see the 48 Hours at all by chance on her?
No, I missed it. I had a busy weekend. I didn't catch it. Did you?
I watched it yesterday in the office in the background, and it was an interesting take because it really was strongly participated in by Kouri Richins' family. And they are very hell-bent on believing that she's innocent. They did have some of Eric's family on there as well. But it was very, I don't want to say slanted because it really wasn't, but we really just showed another side of this and how much they believe pretty much the opposite of everything that we've heard thus far. They were testifying, at least not testifying, but they were stating to 48 Hours that the home that Kouri wanted to buy and flip, that Eric was all about it, and that they were celebrating the night. That's where the Moscow Mule came into play. That he was excited about it because they believed that they could get this property for $2 million and then flip it for like $22 million. If things were kept under budget. That's quite a flip, by the way.
Yeah.
It's kind of a ridiculous flip, by the way. And I guess they're painting it as if everything was good, their marriage was wonderful, everyone was happy, and that there was no strife, no issues whatsoever. The other side, the other family is, the brother claims that Eric said to him, if something happens to me, look at her. Not something you'd be saying in a healthy relationship. They very much both contradict each other and are kind of in their own bubbles, which is understandable. You're going to stand up for your kid. But it's amazing just how different these worlds are and the different sets of facts or versions of reality, when reality is probably somewhere closer to the middle. But there's so much that does not add up to make a whole lot of sense that Kouri Richins didn't have something to do with this.
Do you remember when this story first came out and I said, what if maybe he wanted to get out of the marriage, maybe was suicidal and depressed, and decided he just wanted to take her down, and he set it up so that it looked like she killed him? It's
an interesting thought. But
I don't think it's accurate.
I don't think it is. I mean, they try to make connections to a lot of illicit drug use, or and the parents, he had a marijuana gummy once a day to calm down. It's like, I got news for you. A huge chunk of America does that on a daily basis now. It's probably just as popular in most places as having a beer, if not more. So that really isn't like shocking illicit drug use. You don't go from I'm having a marijuana gummy to let's do fentanyl-laced cocktails.
Yeah.
That's not the chain of progression of how that would work. And plus he has some of her medications in his system. There's stories about where Kouri got the fentanyl from the former housekeeper. There's this, I don't know. There's too much that just does not add up here, as this was just something that was an accident.
But wait a second. The whole fentanyl thing, we've got some illicit fentanyl out there that the dosing is wrong. Like just the tiniest little bit will kill somebody.
Sure.
So could this have really been? Yes, there was supposed to be fentanyl in his drink, but for the love of God, not 5 times a lethal dose of it.
Whoever is putting any fentanyl in their drink is having a death wish, pretty much.
Yeah. These days, unless it's done at a hospital through an IV of some sort.
Even that I don't trust. I would just learning about just how insanely strong fentanyl is. It's like 100 times more powerful than heroin. I mean,
I've had it. I've had it after a couple of surgeries.
Why? What's the point? Like, there's so many other drugs you could take. Why fentanyl? Why would that? Why? I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I'm literally asking why. Why do we need this one when we have so many other extremely strong ones?
Because it's extremely effective, and they use it. They use fentanyl patches a lot in veterinary medicine, like for amputations. If a dog gets hit by a car and they amputate a leg, there will be a fentanyl patch that's on the pet. But it's like micrograms of the drug. It's just a teeny tiny little bit. It's extremely effective. So,
but don't we already have extremely effective drugs and things that would work? Just the times effective it is more than like the leading up drug is so ridiculously higher.
We do, but here's the thing: it's extremely effective. It does what it's supposed to do. There was never supposed to be this illegal pathway of fentanyl out in the public. It was never supposed to be like this. So the fentanyl that's out there is the scary one, the one that, who knows, maybe it was made in somebody's basement. That's not safe. Is it that easy to make fentanyl? I don't think so. I think it's being stolen from somewhere, compounded into something else. So essentially, there's just no regulation. So the sources are coming from legitimate sources, like pharmaceutical companies, or being stolen or whatever. And then it's being mixed up and put into other things on the street. But initially it comes from I don't know. I don't know the answers to these questions. It just seems to me that far more people are dying from it than are actually being helped by it. Well, and the reason people are dying from it is it is 50 times more potent than heroin, 100 times more potent than morphine. So it's used clinically, for the most part, only in cases where there is such extreme pain that you need to conquer that pain right now. But the problem is it's getting into the hands of people who don't know how to use it, who aren't qualified to use it, and should never have their hands on it. The synthetic fentanyl that's out there is extremely dangerous. It should only be done in a clinical setting. Just in case there is a problem, they can do something to fix it. Doing it on the streets in your own home, that's fucking crazy. I'm amazed by just how deadly this shit is and how it seems to be showing up in people. But are people actively going out there seeking out to get fentanyl? Yes. There was a dog that when I worked in veterinary medicine, there was a dog who had just come in for his recheck after having his leg amputated, at least the bottom part of his leg. And we had to take his patch off. And I didn't use a glove. This was 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't this issue. Prince hadn't died from fentanyl at this point, all this stuff. And I felt kind of sick to my stomach after I had touched the patch. I should have had a glove on. That was my mistake. And that was ridiculous. But I started feeling woozy just from touching that patch. And then, it's an opioid, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I know opioids are extremely difficult to come down and off of. I remember when I had my surgery for my appendix, they had me on something. I don't remember what, but I just remember it was more painful getting off of that painkiller for a week than it was for the fucking surgery itself. I was like, I should have just done Tylenol because I would rather have endured the pain than getting off of that. How ridiculously difficult and painful is it to get off of it then if you've been using it for any period of time? I would imagine that much more difficult. Well, and here's the thing. It's typically not used for a long period of time because it is addictive. It's typically used after severe surgeries or trauma. It's used, if you're in a car accident and your leg has been pulled off, they're going to give you that. Okay. So it's not something that you're using for daily pain relief.
Mhm.
It's in the first 3 days of your surgical pain. It's during that horrific time where nothing
Yeah.
else is going to reduce your pain.
And then
Then they move you on to something else, like
Okay.
a codeine, or if it still is severe, they might go to a morphine, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. They're not going to keep you on fentanyl if they're doing their job.
But is that the problem with people then who are not doing this in a clinical setting? They're on it, and then they're on it for a long time, and then getting off of it is almost more deadly than it is just keep taking it.
It can be. The one thing about fentanyl is that if you're in an overdose situation, naloxone or Narcan is something that can be used to reverse that because it is an opioid.
Mhm.
It works. Narcan works, but you need to be given that administration of naloxone for it to work. So that means you need to be given this in a clinical setting so they can monitor
Yeah.
to find out, are you having an overdose? A lot of these people who are overdosing from fentanyl, they're doing it at home.
Mhm.
There's nobody there. They don't have Narcan sitting next to them. There's nobody monitoring their heart rate or their breathing rate. So it turns into, gee, we just found Prince outside the elevator and he died from fentanyl. Nobody
Yeah.
saw him. That's what that turns into.
Gosh. Wow. On Richins, the ruling follows previous filings by prosecutors alleging that Kouri Richins violated jail rules by reading a portion of a letter dubbed Walk the Dog letter to her mother during a phone call. Subsequent searches of Kouri's cell led to the discovery of the 6-page letter, which prosecutors argued contained a request for false testimony from Kouri's brother. Regarding the disputed manuscript, Kouri's defense asserted that it was an excerpt from a fictional mystery book she was writing, centered around the themes of drugs in a Mexican prison. Judge Mrazik's decision to withhold disclosure of the manuscript leaves its contents a mystery, with Brackin prohibited from revealing any details to the court's attorney's office. Amidst these legal proceedings, preliminary hearing dates have been set now for May 15th, which will offer a glimpse into the timeline of the case against Kouri Richins. She faces these serious charges, including aggravated murder and possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance stemming from the fatal poisoning of her husband, Eric Richins, who ingested 5 times the legal dose of fentanyl. Kouri remains incarcerated without bail as the legal process unfolds. Well, I'm wondering, I'm thinking if you're Kouri Richins and you really need to sell this I'm writing a manuscript thing, then you better keep writing a manuscript thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise,
I want to see that.
Otherwise, it's not going to be looked at too kindly when it comes to trial. But if you go, look, here's the rest of the book. It's all fictional. Totally fictional. See, even aliens show up in it or something. I would be going down that road if you really want to try and discredit it. I mean, it's easy to discredit that and go, yeah, of course you're writing this now. You got caught. But clearly that was not a manuscript for a book.
No. And, maybe she could actually finish writing that book and sell it and help pay for her legal expenses.
That might be a good idea. Or she can go flip another house or something, but that probably won't be coming out. Jail cell flipping. Hey,
Ooh.
I think we got a new career for her.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.